Okay. Good morning, everybody. Today's workshop might well have been called Tefillah 101. And I want to share with you that it's my personal pet peeve. I make it my business to make Tefillah b'tzibur every day. Shachas Mincha Ma'ariv, being in Avelus, made it that it was basically carved in stone. There are no options of davening outside of a minyan. But when you look around in a Beis Medrash and you see people davening, you see how Tefillah gets treated, it has to make an impact on you. Because there are some people that are treating Tefillah as a gift, as an opportunity. There's others who treat Tefillah as a chore. Now, we're familiar if you have a computer with Microsoft Outlook, there's a task list. And you can put on the task list, I have to do this, I have to go to grocery, I have to go to work, I have to have a meeting like this, and an appointment here. And one of the tasks on the list is Shachris, another one is Mincha, another one is Ma'ariv. And if we treat Tefillah as a chore, we have a major challenge, because it's done to get over with so that you can go on to whatever is next on the list. And it's sad that Tefillah can often become one of these things that you just got to get past so that you can go on to the next thing. When I come to a Shabbaton like this, we have an island of people. I think they said the number was somewhere just below 900. And everybody is here in the emotional mode. And everybody is coming in with their own peckle of whatever issues they have. And when we daven, we're already in the emotional mode. And the tefillah is taking that kind of an experience for us, that we're aware that we're standing in front of the Kisei HaKovod and we're pouring our hearts out. It's an interesting Rambam in Hilchos Tefillah. The Rambam says that in reality, our obligation by tefillah is we're supposed to be mechaven from beginning to end. And our tefillah beginning to end requires us to be involved in it rather than just robotically going through the words on the page of the siddur. And the Rambam says that because today we're unable to be mechaven everything the way that we need to, the Rambam says a very interesting halacha. If we're mechaven by Birchas Avos, which is the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei until the end of that bracha of Mogen Avrom, if we do that, b'di'evid, we're good. Okay, very nice thought. But Reb Chaim Brisker, in his Chidushim and Rambam, says an awesome thought. And you would think that, hey, this got to come out of a Chassidish Rebbe, one of the Talmidei Baal Shem must have said this. And he says, Reb Chaim says that Kavanah by Tefillah involves two separate things. One is understanding the words of what we're saying, Perush HaMilos. The second is the conscious awareness that we're standing by the Kisei HaKovod, talking to the Rebbeinu Shalom directly, face to face. Zogt Reb Chaim that the halacha that you're yaitze b'di'evid with just Birchas Avos is regarding Perush HaMilos, which means if you don't understand what by V'lam al Shinim is a Shabbat, is Mager, is Sashbil, and you don't know what those words mean, b'di'evid, you're okay. But you have to, from the very beginning of davening to the very end of davening, be in a state of conscious awareness. I'm standing in front of the Rebbeinu Shalom and I'm talking to him. And this is something that in order to do that, you have to get away from the mayach of the intellect part of the brain, and you have to access the emotional part of the brain. Because the emotional part of the brain is focused not on exactly what the words are that I'm saying, but it goes directly to the avodah shebelev. Tefillah is avodah shebelev. Vavadatem b'chol levavchem. Ezu hi avodah shebelev. What's avodah that's done in the heart? Zu tefillah. So that what we're discovering is that the proper way of approaching tefillah is to be emotionally involved. The challenge is that if we don't approach it from an intellectual perspective, we will not understand enough to enable us to engage emotionally. Now, I began many years ago learning siddur. Now, just put the backdrop for this. As we were little children, and I mean little, parents have these things you do with the children. So you have, this little piggy and whatever how you do with their fingers. When I grew up, my mother had the shtick that she would do, and then when grandchildren, she did it with them too. And she says, okay, when I'm going to be big, what am I going to learn? Siddur, Chumash, Mishnayos, Gemara, Rambam. Now, I become a yeshiva bocher, and I say, okay, the Rambam I get, Gemara, Mishnayos I get, Chumash I get. Who learns siddur? The siddur is the book on the shelf that gets more use than any other bound volume in the entire Bais Medrash, and we know the least about what goes in there. Who sits with a siddur and learns? And it bothered me because I'm davening and I'm not understanding what I'm saying. And part of not understanding, yes, I might be, I was in yeshiva enough years so you can translate some of the words here and there. But that was not even the issue for me. Then I made some discoveries that, there's Nisach Sfard, there's Nisach Ashkenaz, there's Nisach Chabad, and I was told that the Baal Tanya, before he put together his siddur, sat with 60 siddurim, so that he would have what to base it on when he extricated from all that the best combination of nisach that he wanted to put forth. Where were these 60 different siddurim? What did they say in it? And wait a second, if there's a nisach like this and nisach, why is this one better than that one? And it set me on a mission. I'm davening anyways. Let me understand it. Let me treat my experience of being with a minyan, and it should be something that means something to me. There were several aspects of this that all came together, and today I spend time with siddur on a daily basis, trying to understand what am I talking about. So there's the number of siddurim that I have access to is sizable. Siddur HaMefarish, Siddur HaMavaya, and countless others. I have from Ari siddurim, I probably have about 15 or 20, and there are many more. There's some that I have access to online. And I want to know, where do the tefillahs come from? Who wrote them? What role do they play? So, for instance, we have Oz Yasher that shows up before Barchi after Psikah de Zimra. Why is it there? What's the significance? The Sforim bring down that we used to say it after Psikah de Zimra, and it was a Takanas Chachamim to move it earlier, to be the tail end of Psikah de Zimra. I can expound, if anybody wants to, on nuances in Nisach that actually make a huge difference to understand what a particular tefillah is. I want to approach this in a more general, where we can have a shir on tefillah once a day for an hour, at least, and we can go through the siddur, and it's going to take us many, many months to get through it. And we will not have touched Slichus, we will not have touched Yom Tovim with Yaitzlis, we will not have touched with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. There's treasures in what is printed in the siddur if we would only understand it and spend the time with it. But that's more of the intellectual angle on this, and we need to resort to that, because if we don't understand it, I don't have a way to relate to it emotionally. I made a discovery some 27 years ago on what Birchas HaShachar means. And I was at a weekend retreat of people recovering from drugs and alcohol, all Hamish people. There was a beautiful Beis Medrash, and there were these recovering addicts, many of whom had overdosed more than once, were saying Birchas HaShachar. And every bracha that they were talking about was relevant to the fact that I'm alive today versus the alternative. So that when they were saying, they were saying, God, thank you for allowing me to wake up this morning. Do we think about that? Okay, I'm able to open my eyes and see something, right? And then they're talking about Mater Asirim, Zarkov, Kfif, all these brachos. Do we have an idea what we're saying? We are giving the greatest form of gratitude by recognizing that the Eibishter is the one that's responsible for all this. You know, one of the tefillahs, there's jokes about this, but one of the tefillahs that we conclude every single tefillah with it, end of Shachas, end of Mincha, end of Marav, and it gets a very, very honorable position in the tefillahs of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, is Eleni. Eleni l'shabech. What is the theme of that tefillah? We're saying it every day. We're saying it multiple times a day. It's a very special, what are we saying? Okay, let's look at it. Eleni l'shabech l'adana kol. So it's on us to be able to give Shevach Vaydah to the Ribbon Shalom. Why? He did not make us like the Goyim, right? They daven to their getchkas. And we're able to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's very nice. If you take this at face value, we miss the tamtas, we miss the energy of what this tefillah is saying. Because what happens now is we're basically saying they daven to the getchkas, we daven to the Eibishter. My daddy is bigger than their daddy. Is that what we're saying? It's bizarre. It's strange. Why are we talking like that? Carrie, think about it this way. Kivyachol, here's a room. God is in that room. Mr. Guy, what are you going to, when you want to go into that, you can go into the room and you can talk to God. What are you going to say? The guy is going to say something like, give me a Mercedes, a $5 million bank account, a cruise around the world, et cetera, et cetera. Gimme. If you send a Yid into that room, the Yid is going to stand in front of the Ribbon Shalom and say, you gave me a beautiful life, I have children, I have a job, I have food to eat, I have a home, I have a community, I have health. We're going to look at what is it that we can say to the Ribbon Shalom to be grateful. The one pivotal word in that tefillah is the word imoidim, because that's something that a Yid does by nature, and a guy by nature does not. And the contrast, the tefillah is about the contrast, a Yid to a guy. And if we realize that, now read through the tefillah to the best you can understand it, and it makes a difference. It now turns Eleni l'shabeach into one of the most profound forms of gratitude that we can have. And You know what? Think positive. Think positive. We conclude tefillah every single time we daven with the message, think positive. I'm a Yid. I'm going to go forth into whatever I'm going to do that day or whatever I'm going to do that night. I'm approaching it as a Yid. I have a very special status. So that if we begin to examine the tefillahs that we have, we realize that we're looking at a treasure. There's a tefillah that we have that has begun to get a lot more attention lately. We're familiar with it because it's in the siddur for Shabbos and Yontif. It also appears very honorably in Hallel by the Seder Pesach at night. And it's gotten a whole lot of good press. There's an ancient skilla that when somebody is going through a difficult time, Zug Nishmas, right? Take your siddur and say Nishmas. I'm just flashing back. The first time that I did this was when my son was in the bus accident with the Blazer Geldsaler. And we came to Eretz Yisrael, found him in ICU in a coma. And Tuesday night of that week, the accident happened Thursday night. Tuesday night, there was a kinnis at the Kaisel. The hospital was in Petach Tikva. I had somebody give me a ride to the Kaisel and back. And there was a couple of hundred people, Matguzar Tilim, and we said all the names. And then we said Nishmat. It's the first time that I had known about it, but I never participated in it. And I became very, very busy. Like, I want to understand Nishmat. We can translate the words. It's not about translating the words. I want to know the theme. What is the message? And it became clear that Nishmas is not a tefillah where you ask for anything. You're not asking for health, you're not asking for parnasa, you're not asking for success, you're not asking for nothing. Nishmas is a tefillah that is, from beginning to end, you're giving shavach v'odah to the Ribbon Shalom. You're talking about the things in Teva that we have, you're talking about the nisim that have happened to us. That's what it's all about. God did a great job on the world, you took care of us, nisim when we had the opportunities to be in difficulties, you were there, right? You take care of us, you make our bodies work, you make everything work. And then you say, Ein oni maspika b'laydu. We don't have enough to be able to give gratitude. I can never give enough gratitude for how much has to be there. Then I made a discovery that the tefillah of Nishmas has a very special status. It's a tefillah that we actually prepare for. In other words, we don't just open the siddur and say it and babble it away. We actually prepare for it. So that if you look at the Zmiras Shabbos, Friday night, Nishmas kol chai v'gam na'aritzach. You're talking about being meichen already Friday night for tefillas Nishmas that you're saying tomorrow morning. For those of us who sing Tzama Nafshi, the last verse, Ekay Dalapi, I will kneel down with my face to the floor. Ve'efres l'chol kapi, Prisas kapayim. We had in yesterday's parsha, right? When Pari said ha'atiri badi and take away the makkah, right? The posuk says Moshe went out. Ve'yifre says kapov. It's a tefillah to raise hands like this. Okay, Prisas kapayim is a tefillas bakasha. It's begging for something. And is Efrais L'cha Kapi. It's a tefillas bakasha. We don't do tefillas bakasha Shabbos. Shabbos, you're not allowed to daven a tefillas bakasha. You're only allowed to give shavach v'haidah. And the Sforim say that the tefillas of Shabbos are hecher, many times greater than the tefillas from all week long. You're not asking for anything. It's all shavach v'haidah. And the secret is that if a person is going to daven and ask with a tefillas bakasha, there's a big problem. because there are malochim in the middle that ride shotgun. This guy's asking for parnosa. Magilo, skimtim. He did such and such. So we always have the risk that if we're davening, that there's a kitrug and there's a hurdle, there's a barrier before the tefillahs are going to reach the Ribbon Shalom, and it's on purpose that way. So we have to come up with various strategies and ruses to be able to bypass that, of which one is Tefillah b'tzibur. The Eibishter says a Tefillah b'tzibur is never going to go unanswered. So we do what we can to be able to connect as a tzibur. And there's another thing to do. If somebody is coming to visit the king, right? Someone's going to go into the White House. They're getting screened before they go in, right? You're going in to see the president or somebody in the White House, the state capitol. You're getting screened for safety before you walk in there, right? You have no weapons. You have no this. Why it's not different by the Ribbon Shalom that we get screened before we go in. What happens if we're bringing a gift? You bring a gift, we'll take it in for you. When a Yid davens, we can have machshavas of whatever it is that we need, but we're bringing it as a gift. You don't bring to a gift, God, I need parnosa. That's not how you do it. The way you do it is you go and you say, Ribbon Shalom, you've done so much for me. You've given me parnosa this much. You've given me children. You've given me a job, a community, all the taivas, right? And if you thank the Ribbon Shalom for it, underneath you're saying, God, doing a great job. Keep up the good work. That tefillah is b'machshava. We're only thinking that. And that's fine because malachim don't understand what a person's thinking. Only the Eibishter is a Yedeya Machshavas. So Malachim can't block a tefillah that comes al Yedei Shavach v'Haidah. And there's plenty precedent to this. By the Yamsuf, the Yidden came, and this is Posuk Shteit Beferish, Vayitzaki b'nei Yisrael el Hashem. Right? The Yidden are at a Yamsuf, they're blocked from all sides. The Bentzion are behind them, the Yam is in front of them. And what do? They start davening. Vayitzaka b'nei Yisrael el Hashem. And Moshe Rabbeinu says to them, Hashem yilachem lachem v'atem tacharisha. The Eibishter is going to take care of things for you. Be quiet. What were they doing wrong? And if you open the Chumash, Vayitzaka b'nei Yisrael el Hashem, Zukt Rashi, they held on to something that they learned from their ovos, right? Then it's a good thing. Why are we stopping them? What are they doing that they shouldn't do? Targum Yonason translates the posuk: V'atem tachrishin, v'aten shtoiki, you be quiet, v'hovi yikoro v'sishpachta v'roim mila elakochai. Give shirus v'sishpachas to the Ribbon Shalom. The pasuk said, be quiet. Didn't say be quiet not to say anything. Don't say tefillas bakasha, because there's malachim that are here by the Yamsuf that are saying halal yav de avodah zorah that yidden haben gedient avodah zorah. And if you're going to ask a tefillas bakasha, it's going to get blocked. Don't be so foolish. Don't ask. Give shevach v'haidah to the Ribbon Shalom. You made it 6 days from Yetzias Mitzrayim till here, and the Eibishter took care of you. He gave you what you needed. You were embraced by an anehar kovod. There's that message of gratitude. If you concentrate that way, the Eibishter will hear underneath that you're begging to be rescued from the Mitzrayim. He'll take care of you. And guess what? He did. We can always open the Chumash and read, the Holchi Ba'ibasha B'Sei Chayam. True. But you know what? The Yidden didn't just run away. If you have somebody locked in a room and somebody comes by and breaks the lock, what does the person that was locked inside do? He runs out. That's not what happened. The Yamsuf wasn't an escape hatch. what do we say by the Yamsuf? Hamavir Bonov Ben Gizri Yamsuf. The Eibusher didn't just open up the Pesach and everybody went running out. The Eibusher took us across. He escorted us through the Yam. Vididim He'avarto. Right? The Eibusher took us across. This wasn't saying, okay, run away. We weren't running away. The Eibusher took us to where he wanted us to be. So the Shavach V'Haidah that they had enabled the Kriyas Yamsuf to become the massiveness that it was. Of course it was Shalai K'derech HaTeva. It violated all rules of nature. Besides that, there's something more here. And what was more is that it turned into a massive, extreme version of Chasdei Hashem. This is one of the things where a Yid has something that in other forms of religion is non-existent. So it's not that, Catholics have their thing and Protestants have their thing and the Buddhists have their thing and Islam has their. It's not about that. We are categorically different, not numerically different. We're not different in terms of measure. We are categorically different because we have a different way of approaching. As Siddur Gotov developed as a Rebbeinu Shalom, he takes care of us, and we are constantly grateful. What makes this into a very powerful and valuable message is that when we are recognizing that we are in a place of emotion, and for the overwhelming majority of us, we're here in pain. Our kids are in pain, we're in pain. The kids aren't here, we're here. We're here because of the suffering that we're going through. So we're going to take a siddur in our hand, and we're going to daven, and we are already in an emotional spot. What I'd like, the message, the bottom line message is that when we are in that place and we are already in the right brain, we're in the emotional side of the brain, it would be extremely valuable in multiple ways to be able to use this opportunity to say in our tefillahs, Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm grateful that you gave me this, I'm grateful that you gave me that. Whatever your bakashas are, I'm not telling people not to daven with bakashas, but it's critical that we make an express, concentrated effort, a conscious effort, to recognize what the Rebbeinu Shalom did give us. If we walk away from a Shabbos like this, and one of our tefillahs is, Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm grateful that I had a Shabbos like this. I met up with people. I was able to talk to somebody who could understand what I'm talking about. I can't do that when I'm at home. There's very few people that I could talk to that really know that know what I'm going through. I heard this, I heard that. The food was great. The ambiance was great. The Havdalah was great. The speakers were wonderful, and we're able to access the gratitude part, right? Use the fact that we're in the emotional mode to access that part of us, because that's one of the things that makes a Yid different from a guy. There's a story I see it being brought down in the name of a medrash. I have no clue where the medrash is, but it's a story of a Tana who was traveling somewhere on foot, and he passed an area where right near the road there was a small little creek, and there was a man jumping back and forth over the creek, over the water, and by each time that he jumped, he screamed out the word, Tomei! And he goes over to him and he says, what are you doing? He says, he was orphaned from both of his parents as a baby, and neighbors who were Goyim took him in. They knew that he's a Yid, They didn't know much of what that means. There was no access to chinuch. So other than being told that he's a Yid, he had no idea what kind of halachas and practices he has to follow. And somewhere in his travels, whatever he was doing, he happened to have learned one single word from Lashon Kodesh. It happened to be the word tameh. So he says, look, I know I got to serve God. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. Nobody ever taught me. So I'm going to come up with something myself. And he would jump back and forth over the creek. This is his brilliant idea. And scream out the one Lashon Kodesh word that he knows. The Tana realized, hey, this guy's doing something to do Avodas Hashem. So he says to Matay Yid, what you're doing is fine, but I want to teach you a different word. Because the word tameh is a negative word. Let me teach you a different word, tahar. So when you jump over the creek, scream out the word tahar. Very nice. Tana went on his merry way, and the poor guy had too much experience with the word tameh, and virtually no experience with the word tahar, and he very quickly forgot it. And he was sitting there unable to do anything, because now that he told me that I shouldn't say the word tameh, so I can't do that. But I remember the new word. So he was sitting there puzzled. The Tana came to wherever his destination was, and he went to sleep, and he had a cholam. His father came to him, his Rabbi came to him, whatever, and told him, you better go back and undo the damage. Let him scream the word tameh. The nachas that the Eibishter had from his avodas Hashem, which is certainly not one of the Taryag mitzvahs, but this was what he was doing, because for him this was avodas Hashem, right? The Eibishter had nachas from that, and you deprived the Ribono Shel Olam of that nachas. Go back and fix it. Go fix that. Which he had to do, otherwise he was in a really bad place. The sincerity that a person brings to their avodas Hashem is so much an ikar, it's so fundamental that the outer trappings are not the main thing. And then when we talk about tefillah as avodah shebelev, it's not the words we say. The words we say is just a vehicle. The real part of tefillah that needs to matter to us is the awareness, like Reb Chaim Brisker says, I'm talking to the Ribono Shel Olam directly, face to face. The Eibishter hears me. And when I talk to him, I can tell him anything. You're going to keep a secret from God? Come on, right? If I need something, who do I go to? When we were children, we wanted something. Where did we go? We went to our parents. Well, the Ribono Shel Olam is our parent. Shleisha shutfei b'adam, right? I'll tell you how far it goes. There's a letter that Rabbi Yonasan Eibishitz wrote to his nephews, nieces, who lost one of their parents. I don't remember the details exactly, but it's in Igeres Tanchum, this is his Nichum Avelim, to the children of a brother-in-law, sister-in-law, whatever. And he writes to them as follows. He says, Shloisha shitfim b'adam, right? Ovi v'imay v'hakadosh baruch hu. When the Eibishter takes one of the physical parents away, the child still needs three parents. The Eibishter fills in. So that until now, the Eibishter was 33% my parent, my father was 33%, my mother was 33%. When my mother passed away, the Eibishter says, okay, I got to fill in. I'm still here. So the Eibishter became 66 2/3 my parent, right? My father passed away 11 months ago, plus a week or so. The Eibishter became 100% my parent. I'm not parentless. I'm not. And if we recognize that when we're talking to the Ribono Shel Olam, yes, give the Eibishter your shopping list. My father's Hanavocha had a story. I remember when he came back from Eretz Yisrael describing this, and he must have put it into one of his books, one or more. He was at the Kaisel. I believe this was his trip in 1968. He went to the Kaisel, and while he was there, he sees that they're escorting an elderly Yid to the Kaisel, and he realized that this elderly Yid is blind. And that's why he's being taken with, an entourage of maybe a Gaba and children. And he comes up to the Kaisel. He's not going to hold the Tillim in his hand because he can't see what it says anyways. And he starts to talk. And he says a few Kapitluch Tillim. This is an elderly Svardish Yid. And as he finishes the Kapitel Tillim, he starts rattling off a shopping list. That he needs this and he needs that, and then this family member needs such and such, and he's going down the list. And then he stops. And he says, Slicha, et zeh kvar higadati etmol. Sorry, I said that already yesterday. My father walked away and said, that's davening. He's talking to the Rebbeinu Shlalem directly. Some years ago, I gave a workshop at a Torah Maseret convention. I don't remember if this was the workshop before me or the workshop after me, but the presenter of the workshop was somebody who was a 9th grade Rabbi. And then this Rabbi had been begging his menahel, I want to give a shir on Tefillah. Please let me do it. He says, I fought with the menahel for 3 years, and he finally said, okay, 1 hour a week. He says, how much can you cram into a single hour? So he would go through the structure of tefillah and understand that this would be mokum karbonas, and this is at the phase of Psukkah de Zimra, and this is the chshivas, and he's going through through the structure. He said, I need to do something in this measly hour a week that's going to stick. Here's a bunch of high school kids. So he says, you know what? I want you to do something like this. You're saying Shemoneh Esrei quietly. Nobody hears what you're saying. The Mishnah says that Tefillah nemeres b'chol lashon. It doesn't matter what language you say. Yes, we're Mesaken Tefillah, Lashon HaKodesh. You can daven in any language you want. So he says, by Shemoneh Esrei, there's additives, okay? So by the book of Rifa'eni, there's a tefillah to say, to be masker a chayla. In the book of V'roitze b'shiva, there's a tefillah to add that Eibusher should be makabel somebody b'shiva. And Shema Kaleinu is the default that you can put anything you want in there, right? It's the kitchen sink. He says, every tefillah you say, personalize it. Put something that's your personal bakasha into Shemoneh Esrei. So, for instance, during the bracha of Atachainen, a person can easily say, Rebbeinu Shlalem, I'm taking a history test this afternoon. Help me get a good grade. That's fine, because at least I know that I'm asking the one that can make it possible. All right? Somebody says, I did something yesterday I should have. I ate milchiks too soon after fleischiks. Fine, slach loni. What's the problem, right? But what they're doing is once I'm already putting my own personal ingredient into the tefillah, the whole tefillah becomes personalized. I'm now concentrating on what I'm talking about, and I'm involved in it. It's becoming part of my experience. There's a quote from the Baal Shem HaKodesh that basically says, if you are after you davened the same as you were before, why did you bother? Tefillah is an experience that we're connecting with the Rebbeinu Shlalem directly, who wants me. He invited me, please, my child, come talk to me 3 times a day. I want to hear you. Are we approaching Tefillah that way, or are we looking at it as a chore? When we're in a matzav, like many of us are here, we're parents in pain. Somebody just said that before, parents in pain. We're pips. We're in the emotional mode. But when we're in that emotional mode, who do we turn to? Yes, we can turn to friends, to comrades, to other parents, to other. Yes, there are people we can talk to, but the one who's going to be there 24/7, who is not just available, but is asking us, "Come, talk to me, tell me." The Rabbi Shalom. It's add a simple thought. To me, it's the pshat in what we say. At the last of the middle brachas of Shemoneh Esrei is the bracha of Shemei Tefillah. Shema Koleinu Chis V'Racham Aleinu V'Kal V'Racham V'Racham Tefillah Seini. Right? Kikel Shemei Tefillah V'Sachananoto. Right? Why do we have to say that? We said it already. Right? It's very simple. The Gemara Darshans on the Pusik, this drosha shows up in Shas, I think 5, if not 6 times, and each time the one saying it is a different Tana. His spalul v'loinen, a person davened, and he was not answered, and he didn't get a response to his tefillah, Yachzer v'yispal, he should go and daven all over again. How do you know? The Pusik, Kaveh el Hashem, Chazik v'yamin sibacha v'kaveh el Hashem. Kaveh el Hashem, daven, right? What if it didn't work? Chazik v'yamin sibacha, strengthen yourself, remobilize, v'kaveh el Hashem, do it all over again. Wait a minute. Experience taught me that I davened, it didn't work. Taichen, the Helik Sforim, the Sforim Kedashim say, fascinating Taich. Sometimes the Eibusha doesn't give you what you asked for because he wants to continue hearing your voice. And we've done this with our children. They come and they say, can I have a candy? Can I have a lollipop? Right? You don't give it to them right away because they're cute as buttons. Right? You quell when they talk to you. Just keep on talking. Right? Some of the kids are, their diction is, it's still baby talk, and you love to listen to this, right? So you just keep on talking. If you give them the lollipop, they stick the lollipop in it, and they're not talking to you. So the Rebbeinu Shalom is saying, no, keep talking to me. I love to hear your voice. So sometimes the Eibishter holds back, not because he's depriving us. Adarabah, he's not distancing us and pushing us out. He's welcoming us. He says, keep talking. I want to keep hearing you. Kikel Shemei Tefillah V'Sachananoto. The Eibishter says, we're taking note of the fact that the Eibishter loves to hear us daven. But the davening that we're talking about is not the babbling, the words of the siddur off the page, that it goes from here to there and it doesn't go anywhere. There was an old saying that that knowledge in college goes from the notes of the professor to the notes of the student without going through the brains of either of them. I don't want to see tefillahs that go off the page and out the mouth without having gone through the avodah shebelev. We have to process this. We have to be emotionally involved in it, so that when we are walking around with emotional involvement in whatever peckle that the Eibishter gave us, turn that around. The Eibishter wants to hear us talk to him. We don't know what the answer is going to be. Sometimes the answer is no. But our job is connect. The Eibishter is our Heavenly Father, is the Vinisha Bashamayim, and he wants us to keep talking to him. And what I want to take away when I'm going home today is I want to be able to daven on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, the way that we daven here. I'm not talking about the beautiful tefillahs with the Balei Tefillah and the choir, which was Baruch Hashem, it was gorgeous, right? That's not what I'm talking about. That's entertaining for me, right? And sometimes it plays a significant role. I'm musically inclined, and it touches me, which is fantastic. It's beautiful. But when I can access that part of me that allows me to interact with tefillah and to be emotionally involved in it, the way that we see it here, the way that I learned it 20 some odd years ago, when people are able to actually say the bracha by Birchas HaShachar, and they mean it because they could have been dead. They were doing the kinds of things that some people did not survive, right? Whether it was needles in their arm, whether it was doing drugs in other ways, whether it was getting drunk and then driving. I know somebody who was drinking for years and was in accidents and never got breathalyzed or had blood alcohol levels taken when he ended up at the hospital. Never, right? And I was always wondering, how did people pull this off? There's a reality. There's an Eibishter that somehow protects them. And the way that we deal with these kinds of things is we have to turn around and have limitless gratitude. Because the best tefillahs we will ever say are the tefillahs of gratitude. And that's why Nishmat is such a precious skilla that there's bakashas galore in there, but we're not saying them. They're implied. And the implications, the Eibishter gets that. He knows how to do that. My job is to be fixed in the gratitude. So the Eibishter help him. We should always be able to concentrate on giving shevach v'hoidah, giving shevach of what we don't have, shevach of what we do have. The best tefillahs that we're going to have are going to come through shevach v'hoidah. Thank you for listening.